what are we, 2 weeks now, roughly, to decide whether or not we're going to continue as a struggling democracy or we're going to become a fascist state under the control of one of the most horrific creatures that this country has ever vomited up, Donald Trump. I have to tell you, I am very nervous about this. I'm worried about the outcome. You probably are too. Not to come across as some pseudo-intellectual, because I am not. But I do enjoy reading some of the works of Marcus Cicero. I just do. I find the man to be, or was, all those years ago, someone whose writings intrigue me for the most part. Some of the stuff he wrote is a little bit weird. But I call it weird because I am not as educated as someone who studies Cicero or the Greek or the Roman writers and historians and essayists and playwrights. No, I'm not that. But I still find Cicero kind of interesting. And I came across this. I shouldn't say come across it. This is one of my favorite quotes. This is from Marcus Tullius Cicero. And I think it's very appropriate right now. A nation can survive its fools and even the ambitious, but it cannot survive treason from within. An enemy at the gates is less formidable, for he is known and carries his banner openly. But the traitor moves amongst those within the gate freely, his sly whispers rustling through the alleys, heard in the very halls of government itself. For the traitor appears not a traitor. He speaks in accents familiar to his victims, and he wears their faces and their arguments. He appeals to the baseness that lies deep in the hearts of all men. He rots the soul of a nation. He works secretly and unknown in the night to undermine the pillars of the city. He infects the body politic so that it can no longer resist. A murderer is less to fear. Marcus Cicero. That is so, I mean, it is such a right-on description of Donald Trump and the filth and the slime that operate within his inner command, the ones who have all sorts of terrible, terrible ideas and plans for the American population if they get control. November 5th is the beginning of getting rid of this filthy slime. But it's only the beginning, because when Kamala Harris wins the election, and I'm assuming she's going to, oh my God, when she wins the election, then the battle will really begin, because the scum and the filth that is Donald Trump and the sewer dwellers that surround him are not going to say, oh, okay, we lost the election. They're not going to do an Al Gore, as Al Gore did on December, what was it, the 12th, when the Supreme Court, 2000, when the Supreme Court said, stop the vote counting in Florida. George Bush is the winner of the election. And Al Gore immediately conceded because he had respect for democracy and for the Constitution. And as it turned out, of course, Al Gore had more votes in Florida, the swing state that was so necessary to win the election, than George W. Bush did. Well, I have probably quoted that bit from Cicero before, but I thought it would be appropriate to bring it up again. Many, many people, you included, I am certain, and me, but me and your group, we've often commented on the fact that Trump has no bottom in his filth and his scum and his ugliness and his threat to this country. There is no bottom beyond which he won't go. He'll go anywhere in order to corrupt and destroy and degrade. The latest was on Saturday when he was, where was he, in Pennsylvania? And he spewed out of his filthy little mouth these crude and vulgar remarks. And the shit that came out of his mouth included off-color remarks, off-color is putting it mildly, about Arnold Palmer's penis. Arnold Palmer's penis. Out of the mouth of a man who is trying desperately to once again be president/dictator of the United States. He talked about, with his sly, shitty way, Arnold Palmer, the golfer's penis. Now, for a man who once said, oh, women love it, grab them by the pussy, they love it, especially if you're famous, then it should come as no shock whatsoever that he would make remarks about Arnold Palmer's penis. But there he was. Only this time, he wasn't mumbling something about a woman's crotch to one of his little rat buddies walking beside him. He was spewing this shit out in public at a political rally in Pennsylvania. No bottom to this filthy pig. Nowhere. I mean, it's just unreal. But what came out of his mouth in Pennsylvania on Saturday has to have added to the impression that this filthy bastard is increasingly unfiltered, undisciplined, uncontrolled. And the reason he's talking this shit is because he honestly believes, as does his cadre of the closet, well, not so closet, but the inner workings of his circle of Nazi high command. They believe that the election is theirs. So it doesn't make any difference. And what he says, and to me, again, the worst part, and I swear to God, the worst part was the laughter and the grinning on the faces of people at that rally. And especially when he said something about how the women would understand this, and with that sly little smirk on his little fucking mouth. And the women in the shot in television apparently agreed with him and put on these sick-looking beat me smiles at these goddamn women, these Christian fascist women who have about as much independence as a fucking earthworm. But there they were, rapturously listening to the man who said they should be grabbed by their genitals in order to show who's boss, because you women love it. My fucking God. Well, at her own event on Saturday, after she heard about this, Kamala Harris called attention to Trump's temperament and his tendency to, quote, go off script and ramble. Can you imagine what Trump's mind is like? What his innermost thought? Don't even try, because it could be a trap. You start trying to figure out what Trump thinks, and you're liable to slip into that abyss that he lives in. But he went on for 12 minutes about Arnold Palmer, because Palmer happened to grow up in that part of western Pennsylvania. And the airport there apparently is named after him. So he went on and on about Arnold Palmer's penis. And his monologue had these lewd remarks about the size of Arnold Palmer's penis. Interesting that Trump fixates on this, doesn't he? I guess it's because, according to Stormy Daniels, he has a little abbreviated mushroom between his legs. So I don't know. I mean, here I am talking about it. Are you fucking kidding me? I'm going to get into well, a little bit, yeah. And then after he was talking about the size of Arnold Palmer's penis, he gave the crowd an opportunity to call out a profanity. And this is what I mean about the people who cheer him on and gargle and gurgle and laugh and choke and wheeze about he's so funny. And he went on to use the 4-letter word to describe Kamala Harris. This is what he said, referring to the Biden-Harris administration. He said this, quote, "Such a horrible 4 years. We had a horrible... Think of everything they touch turns to shit." Now, the sentence makes no sense, but that's how he talks. And many in his audience, which was made up of adults, but included some children, according to the New York Times, and teenagers, eagerly filled in the blank when he said, everything they touch turns to, and they all yelled, shit. And then, a few minutes later, Trump, this filthy subhuman, urged his supporters to vote, telling them, and once again, he slips into the kind of language that he and his family use on each other, probably when they're sitting around eating their cheeseburgers or whatever food they have brought to the door from a fast food joint. But he was telling his supporters that they had to send a message to Kamala Harris. And he said, here's the message, quote, "We can't stand you. You're a shit vice president." Well, this is what it's come to. Now, election day is what, November 5th? And this is the 21st? So what, 2 weeks? 2 weeks from tomorrow. And Trump's scum, filthy inner circle, and what a collection. I mean, look at these fuckers. Have you seen a picture of Stephen Chung? He looks like Oddjob. I mentioned this last week from the Ian Fleming novels and movies. He does. He looks like Chung. He looks like Oddjob. He's this, I don't know. He has no neck. This great big bulbous head that looks like the top of some poisonous mushroom, only enlarged by about 1,000 million times, with these little half-open eyes. His face is so fucking fat he can't open his eyes, and he is the publicity or PR spokesman for Trump. Stephen Chung. Where did this fucking guy come from? Out of somebody's bad nightmare. And then, of course, you have Stephen Miller, this sick little Nazi fuck, who is an absolute double, if he grows a mustache, for Joseph Goebbels. And then you have the dumpster dweller when he gets out of prison, Steve Bannon, a Christian nut fuck if ever one existed. And I mean, it just goes on and on and on. The collection of people who are Nazis to begin with, but are so fucking ugly and insane, and they choke on their own bile. And oh my God, it's like a collection out of a series of nightmares or characters that are written by some Hollywood playwright or a scriptwriter who wants to come up with a movie that will scare the shit out of you. All the characters are there. There they are. But his advisors said that the speech in Pennsylvania, where he talked about Arnold Palmer's penis, was the start of his effort to make closing argument about why he should be elected to voters. Really? No, I'm not kidding you. This is what his advisors are saying. Get out there and tell these dumb fuckers why you should be president. Go ahead, Don. Tell them. Talk about Arnold Palmer's penis. That'll wrap it up for you, bro. Do that. Hi, Truth Seekers. Mike Malloy here. You know, the Progressive Voices Network brings you commercial-free commentary from today's leading progressive radio hosts and pundits, like me, Mike Malloy, 24 hours a day. I'm not your typical old guy from the 80s or the 90s talk radio host, and Progressive Voices is not your typical talk radio network. It's a listener-supported nonprofit with no corporate control whatsoever over our broadcast. So hosts like me, Mike Malloy, are free to rant and scream and carry on about whatever we like. We're often controversial, but we're never boring. Weeknights, 9 p.m. in the East, 6 p.m. in the West on the Progressive Voices Network. Always progressive, always on. I'm Mike Malloy. Keep it lit.